10 small games, 10 small box games in 10 minutes or less. I don't know why I said that. I make no guarantees this will be 10 minutes or less. It is what it is. Let's go ahead and start this off. Timestamps down below. Starting off with Kawaii. I'm going to be going ahead, in case it wasn't clear, I'm reviewing 10 small box games. I'm going to be going over each of these fairly quickly. Most of these are games that did not impress me enough to stick around. One of them did. Some might stick around because my kids like them. We'll figure it out. Let's go ahead and start off. Kawaii. Kawaii is a game of collecting ice cream. This is a fast-paced game of playing down your ice cream cards as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, you and the other players all have a specific type of ice cream and a specific flavor of ice cream, a color and a shape, effectively, that you're going for. At any given point, you'll trade in your tokens to go ahead and gather those color and shapes from another player's reserve. Trade in your tokens too quickly, and you'll run out of your tokens when you want cards the most. Don't trade in your tokens fast enough, and you'll find other players got things more than you. It's quick, it's fast-paced, it's fun, it's a 3 out of 5. I enjoy it without loving it. It does the job, but it doesn't particularly impress. It's basically a fast-paced game of trading in tokens. Fun for kids, I think, but I don't know if it has a larger audience than that. From there, we have Animalia. Animalia from Quined Games is a small box game of trick-taking. You're going to be basically playing tricks in this cooperative trick-taking game. I think it's... Okay, let's go through the basics. You're going to be playing tricks in this cooperative trick-taking game in order to fulfill certain goals. Think The Crew, but distilled down to a very different engine. In this game, you have your specific animals, each of which have a type, as well as a region that they're from. Each of the 3 continents you'll be playing with in this game all have different goals and objectives you're going through, and there's 3 difficulty levels, easy, medium, or hard, representing how quickly you have to go through the objectives and how mindful you have to be. Personally, I think anything less than medium is a waste of your time, and honestly, I kind of recommend hard. Otherwise, it's way too easy. Part of my problem with this is, as a cooperative game, most of the game comes down to just exchanging notes on what you have. You're allowed to communicate, so you're basically just saying, do you have this, do you have that? You may as well just play hands open. At that point, you may as well just play it as a solo game because you'll be alpha playing it. As a solo game, I don't mind it. As a cooperative game, 2.5 or less. I don't particularly enjoy it, or more. I don't particularly enjoy it, period. As a solo game, it's a 3.5. It is fun. I just don't see a situation in which I'd pick this over The Crew. So a solid solo game if you're looking for a solo trick-taking engine, fun little puzzle. I just think The Crew is more elegant in what it's doing. From there we have Point Salad by AEG. Point Salad is a game of basically trying to acquire cards. You're going to be acquiring cards from this row of cards, 3 columns of cards, putting down cards on the table. You're going to be taking them in order to either add them to your sets or add them to your scoring objectives. So you're constantly choosing between, are you trying to score more, you're trying to get sets, and ultimately you need a combination of all. Think about it practically speaking. 10 times 1 is 10, 1 times 10 is 10, but 5 times 5 is 25. Does that make sense? Mostly makes sense. 10 and 1 add up to 11, so close enough. But you get the idea. The point is you kind of want to have a combination of scoring objectives as well as cards that go into your actual sets. I like the concept, but I found that the collection of cards ends up being too abstract and too crazy that I never feel like I'm going for any strong, cohesive strategy. I really like the concept. I kind of wish this were done differently with different things, but using the same concept. So basically if it were a different game, with elements of the same game, I guess. Point Salad from AEG, a 3 out of 5. It's fun. I just find other games I'd rather play in the small box, quick gathering stuff. Colorado gives me the same feeling as this. Totally different game, but just getting the same feeling, and I just like Colorado a lot more. Black Sonata. Black Sonata is a game from Sideroom Games that basically gives you a very interesting solo hidden movement game, which hidden movement as a genre shouldn't really work when you're talking about a solo experience, but it does work in Black Sonata through the use of basically having these cards that have little images, little holes cut in them. So you have a little map on the board, and you're basically trying to track down William Shakespeare's lost lover from a bunch of potential candidates, and you're tracking her and following her around the board, trying to figure out where she's moving and how she's moving. Every turn you have the opportunity to line up these little holes in the card that tell you where someone has gone, which gives you a way of kind of establishing what the hidden movement character is doing in a solo game, which otherwise shouldn't work. Honestly, the design of this game, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. One of the most brilliant implementations of a game that I've seen. Just the sheer, whoever thought this up, I mean, kudos to that alone. As far as the gameplay experience, I find Black Sonata goes one of 2 ways for me when I play it. Either I am properly tracking the mysterious lady, and the game feels like I'm just in control, or I lose track at some point, and I never really feel like I recover. For me, Black Sonata is a 3 out of 5. I like the concept, I like the premise, but it gets fairly boring fairly quickly because I'm playing against a programmed engine as opposed to playing against another player. So it kind of ends up being more of a logic game than a hidden movement game. Granted, in hidden movement games, you're also engaging in logic, but you're also engaged in reading the opponent and working against them. In Black Sonata, it's just the logic, and as a pure logic puzzle goes, I find other things more satisfying. brilliant execution in terms of what they did. For me, 3 out of 5. I like the concept, didn't love the game. Sunset Over Water. Sunset Over Water is the main game that's staying for me. I like Sunset Over Water. This is just, I mean, at the end of the day, one of the games had to be something that was a win. Sunset Over Water from, Pencil First Games and Steve Finn is a game of collecting various sceneries. You're going to be wandering around the board collecting various sceneries, trying to fulfill different goals. It's a classic Pencil First design in terms of being simple, accessible, rewarding, but also not being over the hill. I really enjoy Sunset Over Water. The set collection is a lot of fun. The blocking play is a lot of fun. Trying to choose what you're doing at any given point to try to be slightly more efficient. It very much feels like there are other games like Whatnot Cabinet, like Herbaceous. It has that same feeling, both in the look, the small box, accessibility, a solid game design, 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoy it. It might be one of my more impressed, that's the wrong word. It might be one of the Pencil First games that I like more. I guess that's the right way of saying it. That's going to be Sunset Over Water. Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy. I do not enjoy this game one bit, but my kids like it a lot. This is from Lucky Duck Games. Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy is a game of basically holding up cards to an app. You have an app on the table. You can be trying to hold them up, the QR codes, and scan the colors. You're basically combining colors to satiate the monsters. Monsters want certain colors. You may not have that exact color, but if you combine this, this, and this from the various players, ta-da, you make the colors. That's the game. It doesn't really get more interesting or clever than that. You go through a procedural aspect of the game, but it doesn't get more interesting or clever than that. It's a pass for me. I do not like it one bit. Now, my kids, to be very clear, my kids love it. I do not like Yummy Yummy Monster Tummy. I do not enjoy playing this one. I do not find it fun. I find it to be just holding up cards to a QR code with no real decisions. As far as does it hit those little nervous systems in my kids' head the same way they like other apps? Yeah, they like it, and at least we're spending time together, so in that sense it's an improvement over many of the apps they would otherwise be engaged with, but as a practical exercise in a great game, I don't know. This doesn't do it for me. I don't enjoy this one bit. From there, we have, let's go with this one over here, another big box game before we move to the small box games. We have Burger Up. Burger Up from Greenbrier Games. Burger Up also feels like an app game. It's one of those serving games where you have a bunch of people you're trying to satiate their order. It's not satiate. You're trying to fulfill their orders, and they have orders for specific types of burgers. That's what you're doing in Burger Up. You have specific burgers that are going to be delivered. Basically, customers want certain burgers. I want 2 patties in a burger, 2 similar ingredients. I want a completely vegetarian burger. Meanwhile, that's the specific orders you're filling. But past that, you're going to have all the ingredients you're trying to gather at the same time, and you're trying to turn and rotate the ingredients to create a chain of ingredients between the ingredients you have in your hand and the ingredients you can buy. You're slowly creating those burgers. You can fulfill them right away for more money. You can fulfill them over multiple rounds for more money. Getting a bunch of extra, like getting a 10 ingredient burger can get extra points. So as a pure game mechanism, it's fun, it's appealing, it's simple, but as far as decision making goes, I don't find the decision making in this game to be that interesting. It's mostly gather ingredients, stack ingredients, fulfill burger, rinse and repeat until the game ends. My kids like it. It's fun. They're building burgers. It's good art, has good art, all those things. It's probably a 3 out of 5. Like I don't mind it. I certainly don't mind it. I didn't mind playing this one at all, but also just doesn't really do much for me either at the same time. I enjoy the time with it. Happy to never play it again. From there we have Legend of Hellas. Legend of Hellas from from Quinhead Games. Another small box game, same people who bought Animalia. Legends of Hellas is a game of trying to take down a bunch of monsters. You're going to have a bunch of monsters, all these mythological Greek creatures or whatever they are. Gods. Mythological stuff, let's just say that. And what you have to do is you have to play cards to those creatures in order to defeat them. The game ultimately comes down to deck management. Whether you're playing it solo or multiple players, you're trying to drive that deck management where you have a bunch of gods and you have to try to play those cards, but every time you move, you have to discard a card. Every time you draw back up, you have to discard a card. Every time you play the Oracle, everything you do costs you discarding of a card. So you're trying to be as efficient with your actions as possible. They give you some scenarios to go through to escalate the difficulty. Honestly, I mean, we haven't played every single scenario, but we played like the first 5. Haven't found it to be difficult enough yet. Just not difficult. It's not enough of a puzzle for us, but it's fun, it's simple, it does the job. Most of these are hitting that same note of it's fun, it's simple, it does the job. Decision making over here just too light for me. That's Legends of Hellas. Next up, we have Misty. Misty is actually one of the more compelling ones here, while still being a game that I don't feel the need to keep. Misty from Helvetique is a game of trying to draft cards. I love drafting, my favorite game mechanic ever. And you're drafting cards, trying to play them down into your own tableau. What you're trying to do here is, as your tableau finishes, you're going to be moving cards based on arrows. Cards that move to the left, move to the left. They might move off your tableau. They might cover other cards. Cards that move up, move up. Cards that move down, move down. You're basically trying to create a structure of, you're going to place cards down into the tableau, into the little 3x4 window grid, but they're all going to execute in different ways. Monsters eat flowers. Flowers are great. Smiley faces are next to other smiley faces. There's a whole bunch of things that you're trying to do over here. Be mindful of how the cards will cascade when they're done. My problem with Misty, and Misty is a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I like the game. My problem with it is that it's a little too complicated for my kids to understand, and if I'm playing it with adult gamers, I'd rather play other things instead that are more complicated. So it falls into this interesting, tricky spot where I think you're looking for a very precise target audience. A bit too complicated for, I said it already. A bit too complicated for kids, a bit too light for adults. That's where I think Misty falls. Very interesting concept. If it's done into a larger game engine, I think it could be a very interesting mechanic mixed into another game. But that's Misty. And lastly, we have Fluttering Souls from Good Games Publishing. Fluttering Souls from Good Games Publishing is a game that utilizes the system from Seven Wonders Duel, although I'm sure it's been done other times as well, where you have basically a tableau of cards you're placing down, some face up, some face down. I've seen it in Seven Wonders Duel. I've seen it in some sort of chocolate game. What's it called? Truffle Shuffle. And then Fluttering Souls. You're placing these cards face down and face up, and then it's up to you to gather those cards, in this case, butterflies. The butterflies all have different scoring objectives. It's a two-player game, specifically, in the sense you're trying to basically be mindful of your opponent as you go back and forth choosing different cards, and then choosing your starting card you can also place down to block other players, which gives you a bit of a trade-off for being second player. Very solid puzzle. This one is very, very solid in terms of what it's doing. Lots of strategic, just min-maxing as you take cards from other players, as you try to deprive them from their optimal moves. It's very, very tight. I'd also rather play Seven Wonders Duel. This doesn't offer enough as a system for me to be fully invested in it. It's a 3.5 out of 5. I really like it, but it's not enough. It's not enough for me. It's a good game. It's a solid introductory game. I think if you're looking for, if you want to introduce someone to Seven Wonders Duel and you wanted to, start them off, this would be my first go-to pick. It is a solid game. But I'd rather play Seven Wonders Duel if I want this mechanic, and if I want other mechanics, there are other games at the same time. So that's basically it. These are 10 small box games, most of which are not staying. I believe Sunset Over Water is the only one that is for sure staying. The other ones kind of depend on whether my kids want to save them, but for me, they're all reasonably good games in different ways. Again, it's a combination of 3s and 3.5s. They're not bad games. They're just not games that spark joy, Con Marie style, and all of that. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And look at that. We are pretty close to 10 minutes anyways. Have a good one.